मधुबातारितायते मधुक्षरन्ति सिन्धवः मध्वीर्न सन्तोषधीः मधुनक्तम् उतोषसि मधुमत्पार्थिवगुम्रजहं मधुदौरस्तु न पिता मधुमन्नो वनस्पतिर्मधुमागुमस्तु सूर्यः मध्वीर्गावो भवन्तु न। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। May the winds blow sweetly, may the rivers flow sweetly, may days and nights be sweet to us, may the dust of the earth be sweet to us, may the trees and plants be sweet to us, may the sun shine on us sweetly, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be blissful. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. This morning, Swami Ishtananda, head of the Vedanta Society of St. Petersburg, Florida, will speak on courageous Swamiji. I shall say a few words about his background. Swami was connected with the Ramakrishna order 12 years before he joined. He was visiting like me when I was as a student, and then he joined in 1976. Then he was initiated by Swami Bireshwaranandaji Maharaj and monastic vows from Swami Gambhiranandaji. He worked in Ramakrishna Mission Vidya Mandir in the very beginning. It was a very prestigious college of our order. It is in Belur Math. Then he went to Cherrapunji, which is in the Meghalaya, eastern part of India. There he was first a worker, then he became the head of that center. Then he was the center of Alam, another which is near Chinese border. You try to imagine the northeastern part of India. So he was the head of that center. Then he came to Hollywood in 2000 as an assistant minister of Vedanta Society of Southern California. And there also he worked another 7 years. Then he took charge of the St. Petersburg Center. So that is his brief background. Swami will speak on courageous Swamiji. Swami Ishtananda.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om. May Brahman protect us. May he guide us. May he give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Revered Swamijis and dear friends, very good morning to you. So today I am going to discuss very briefly on this very special side of Swamiji that is there in the topic, the courageous Swamiji. Many of us, we consider Swamiji as our hero. As a young man, as I was being introduced, I came in contact with this great monastic order as a very young man, as a boy, as a school-going boy. And Swamiji was a hero instantaneously. And I understand that millions and millions of people around the world, they also find Swamiji as the hero of their life. Why they do so? Why Swamiji becomes a hero? Of course, Swamiji has got many, many different shining faces to attract people towards him. And there could be many different reasons for people to like Swamiji. But this one very special side of Swamiji, I am sure, must be attracting the majority of those who are devoted followers of Swamiji. This particular face or side of Swamiji's character is Swamiji's boldness, his courage. He is brave. He is fearless. Not only that, through his message, the words of fearlessness and courage and boldness is coming all the time. Not only that, in his picture he looks very bold and fearless, but this was a very special character of Swamiji. And I believe that must be a very great attraction for a large number of people. This Swamiji's fearlessness that was showing at a very early age. I would say from his very childhood days. In the beginning, it was showing in the form of restlessness, perhaps. As we read in his biography, the child Bile, when he was not yet Naren, just Bile, he was very, very restless. It was very hard to contain his restlessness by not only his mother but the whole bunch of ladies in the home. His mother, his older sisters and all, and when they would fail, all other different devices and tricks to bring peace to this boy, threatening him or trying to lure him with anything else. Then finally, his mother has devised that last trick, pouring cold water on the head of that baby with chanting of the name of Lord Shiva, and that used to do the miracle as we read in the books. But this restlessness was there, and that restlessness, I believe, was the first sign of the courage and the fearlessness that was in his spirit. Because afterwards, this boy, he, when was asked that what was the model of his life, what he wanted to be, he expressed his desire to one day become the coachman that they had hired in their house. The coachman with his livery, with his turban, with the whip in his hands, that how he can control the very powerful muscular horses and roll the carriage. That was something the boy wanted to emulate in his life. That was the show of power, show of courage. So this is the young boy who was growing up, and his courage and his fearlessness that had to be showing up. We have to remember here one thing, that this boldness or fearlessness or the courage of a person has something to do with the love for truth. The truth and courage, truth and fearlessness, they are very closely interconnected. It is the desire to know the truth. It is the ability to embrace the truth, the whole truth, uncompromised truth, that needs courage, that needs fearlessness. And again, to tell the truth to the powerful, to tell the truth to the authority, it requires courage, it requires boldness. It requires the real brevity. And we find in Swami Vivekananda's life that throughout his life, he was showing his love for truth. And this love for truth was being translated in all these different forms. He would never compromise with truth. And he was very eager to know the truth. He will go to the bottom of everything to know the truth. Go to any extent. For example, as we understand in his father's office, his father was a very successful attorney in High Court of Calcutta. Calcutta was the capital of the British Empire in India those days. And he had many, many clients coming from different religious and caste backgrounds. And caste system was very important, a social order to be followed. And therefore, to entertain his clients, he had maintained in his office an array of hookahs for different caste and different religious people to smoke from them separately so that they don't break any caste rule and thereby don't lose their caste, because that was what they believed. Everybody knew it, and this boy Naren also knew that. But he wanted to go to the depth of this rule and truth about losing caste. So one day he slipped into the office without being noticed by anybody, and he was found by his father that he was taking a puff from all of them. And when asked about what was he doing, he said that I was checking how the caste actually is lost. So he wanted to know the truth. It was his desire to know the truth. Without truth, he is not going to accept things. That later on, he told everyone, don't accept anything only because it is written in a book or only because somebody is telling to you. You check it for yourself, and when you are convinced thoroughly, then only you accept it. This is the level of love for truth. And he was the person who was showing in his life from his very beginning that how strongly he believed in that. For example, we see that the boy Naren, very fond of playing with his friends, occasionally going to a nearby compound of one of his friends and dangling heads down from a champak tree. That was his very popular play. And for fear of somebody falling from there and getting injured, for fear of accident, one of the elderly relative of the boy of that house, he came out and tried to dissuade these boys from doing that by telling them how there was a ghost living in that house, in that tree, and anybody who would dare to climb that tree will get his neck broken by that ghost. All other boys, they were convinced, except Naren. because he did not find any truth value there. And he explained it to his friends that if your grandfather's words were true, then my necks would have been broken long back, he said. So he didn't find any truth there, and therefore he was undeterred. So we find throughout the life of Swamiji, this is something that was coming out, his daring nature, his fearlessness, and that fearlessness that was actually a show for his desire to know the truth. And he's going to any extent to know the truth and accept it as it comes to him. There are many, many such incidents. We cannot go into those details. We understand that Swami Vivekananda was raised very lovingly by his mother from his childhood, with full knowledge and training and teaching of the traditions of his own family and religion. Through the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata and many other books, he had learned everything. He grew up with a natural tendency, his inclination of mind for love of God, his love for Ram, Sita and Hanuman and Shiva, it ran through his entire life, we find. But again, this Naren, as he was growing up, as he became a young man, at the dawn of his youth, he became a very rational-minded person, and truth of everything had to be checked and tested, and then only to be accepted. So, we find that this desire to stick to the truth at that point of time steered him away from his belief in Hinduism to become an avowed Brahmo. Brahmos were a reformist movement at that time. The Brahmos were a kind of a protest against all sorts of social ills that were prevailing in the society. The Brahmos were against all sorts of practices like casteism and child marriage, etc., etc. They were trying to reform the entire society. They believed that the Hindu belief of many different gods and goddesses, it was an idolatry. And they were trying to reform the religion from superstitions and modernize the society. As a young man, as I said, Naren was too interested in finding the truth. And so, his mind, this analytical mind, subordinated all imaginations of Hinduism that were being believed during his time to this test of demand of reason, and then came to the conclusion that the Brahmos were right. So he became a Brahmo. He had this courage to come out openly to accept Brahmoism as the right faith. And then again we find that it was his fierce search for truth that helped him one day to find Sri Ramakrishna from there. As I said, that Swamiji always professed that only because something is written in books or only because someone is talking about it, only because it is a practice for a long, long period of time, he was not going to be fully convinced about it. He needed the truth behind those practices, beliefs, things that are given in the scriptures. So at one point of time, this question was raised in his own mind, that is it true that God exists? If it is so, then who can tell it for sure as a first-hand experience of God that yes, it is so? And he again came out in search of this truth. And we have read in his life story that how he encountered very boldly many of the religious leaders of his time. And that was a very important time in the history of India when great religious movements were being led by great spiritual teachers at different part of the country, and especially in eastern part based in Calcutta. So Swamiji had the opportunity of meeting really great spiritual leaders of his time, and he wanted to know about the truth, about if anybody has seen God, realized God, experienced God firsthand. And that brought him to Sri Ramakrishna finally. He invented Sri Ramakrishna, or he discovered Sri Ramakrishna, or Sri Ramakrishna found him out. And that was his transformation, or again changing his faith, this time from Brahmo religion to the time-tested, age-old Sanatana Dharma back again. But if we think that Swami Vivekananda immediately and quickly got converted, or he surrendered himself at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna, then we have not understood Swamiji at all. It was not a meek surrender. It was like meeting of two great personalities, each testing other in a very powerful way. We have to remember here that Sri Ramakrishna was not an ordinary personality. Sri Ramakrishna was so very extraordinary a spiritual power and authority that even great intellectual personalities like Girish Chandra Ghosh, like Keshav Chandra Sen, like Master Mahasaya, Mahendranath Gupta, like many others, when they came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna, they got changed and converted, and they became a follower of Sri Ramakrishna very quickly. They got transformed very easily and quickly. We find from the life story of all of them that how it did not take much time for them to be influenced by Sri Ramakrishna's divine spiritual presence, but not for Naren. Swami Vivekananda, we find in his life story that while he accepted Sri Ramakrishna, but he continued to challenge Sri Ramakrishna also throughout his life. Not only till the end of Sri Ramakrishna, but even after that, there have been many, many challenges that Swamiji was all the time posing to find, to implore, to understand Sri Ramakrishna more, better, higher, superior, proper way. Or we can call it test him. But it was there. And this is where where we see the love for truth that was there in the heart of Swamiji. From the very beginning, it was continuous testing and finding and searching the truth. The first time Naren came to see Sri Ramakrishna in the Dakshineshwar Kali temple, and Sri Ramakrishna, by his mere touch, transported his mind to a different plane, and Naren screamed out that, "What are you doing with me? I have got my parents at home." And after returning back from that state of mind, Naren thought about it, that what had happened, what was the incident. But he did not give it any higher value than some kind of a hypnotic spell. And he thought that next time I will come prepared, so that this strange sadhu will not be easily be able to influence me. But alas, he was not successful. Second time he came, again Sri Ramakrishna, by his mere divine touch, he transported his mind to a different plane. And Naren was helpless in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. From that time onward, we find that how in many different ways Naren was continuously trying and testing Sri Ramakrishna, not accepting that quickly and easily. Accepting him, but gradually. And that shows the love for truth, that shows the courage, that shows the boldness and fearlessness of this Naren's heart. Without that very different kind of the different level of courage, someone who has already understood or seen this personality as a great, great spiritual teacher and already has accepted him as his own spiritual teacher, he could not continue to test him. It was not only test, it was many different ways he was challenging him, or he was outright showing his disbelief at his face. For example, we see that Naren, who was trained from Brahmo teachings, where God is formless, but God is a personal God. They were calling it Brahman, but that Brahman is formless, but with attributes. And Naren had that kind of a background, and he had accepted it as the final truth. So when some such scriptures would be read in front of Sri Ramakrishna about that formless, attributeless, absolute Brahman, the one without a second, that Brahman which has happened, which has appeared in all different forms. It is nothing other than Brahman. When some such text would be read, he would openly express his disbelief in those texts. Even after finding that Sri Ramakrishna is arguing in favor of that truth, he continued to remain adamant, not accepting, until he got his divine magical touch and he himself had his first taste or first vision or first experience of that one without a second, that non-dual truth, unless he experiences it for himself. How many times Naren had, at the face of Sri Ramakrishna, argued against the possibility or reality of the many different forms of gods and goddesses. Knowing very well that Sri Ramakrishna was not only a believer, he would say that he sees them. And not only he just believes them, he knows they are true. In spite of all that, think of the kind of audacity in our view, but in his case it was not audacity, it was the show of his courage, his love for truth, that he, throughout his life, he has expressed that without your knowing yourself, don't accept it. That courage was impelling him to tell at the face of Sri Ramakrishna that no, he did not believe all these things. Even he did not believe Mother Kali. Considered that to be some kind of figmentation of people's mind. It is an imagination going on there. And he continued his disposition till he had his own experience of Mother Kali's presence, real presence of Mother Kali. Until he had it, he did not accept it. We find in Naren's life that he had this strength of character to even challenge the truth about what Sri Ramakrishna was known for, that is complete renunciation of lust and gold that was known by everyone, and that Sri Ramakrishna himself has told about it. Naren had the audacity to test it for himself, to put a coin under the mattress of Sri Ramakrishna and find it out, the truth, the whole truth. He will not take it just because even Sri Ramakrishna is telling it. Think about the courage of that spirited young man who did not care for any kind of acceptance or appreciation or favor or special affection or love or recognition or anything. Now that requires a courage. That is the show of fearlessness. When Sri Ramakrishna continued to test this young man by not paying any attention to him, day after day, week after week, for a month or so, Naren came and he just was ignored. Ignored by whom? By his own guru. The person who loves him so much and expressed his love so much in so many different ways in the past, that man is purely ignoring him and not even recognizing his presence. And that continued for day after day after day after day. And then one day when finally Sri Ramakrishna asked him that, why do you come here? I even don't talk to you. Then he just unfazed, he just replied as if nothing has happened. He says, so what? I don't come because you would love me or talk to me. I come because I love to see you and I love to be near you, and that's why I come. Think of the strength and the courage that is shown there. How many people you find in this world who can take it when people don't show any recognition, don't show any acceptance, don't show any affection, and specifically if it is coming from people of your own near and dear, those who know you very well. How many people can take it? But this is the weakness of human nature. This is the weakness of human nature when we look around us and we, even without uttering a word, we all the time tell people that please recognize me, please encourage me, please appreciate me. When Swamiji says in his teachings of selfless service, he says that just give and just serve and don't look back. That requires a courage. That is the show of strength and a power. And Swamiji, he is demonstrating this, and Sri Ramakrishna was testing that courage in Naren. That here is a young man who doesn't care for any recognition, who doesn't care for any appreciation, who doesn't care for this human love and respect or affection. Nothing. This Naren, he had this boldness and he had this courage that he did not care for all those. These are the human appreciation and recognition and courage we are talking. But think about something which is much more powerful, superior and mysterious. During his last days in Kasipur garden house, when Sri Ramakrishna one day called Naren to his bedside privately and disclosed to him that, my boy, I have got all the eightfold occult power in me, and I can give them to you so that you can use them during your life. And think of eightfold occult power. Just one of them can make a man a superman in this world. And all 8 of them that are described in the book of yogas, it is being given for free, just for asking. And Naren is so very bold and so very fearless and so very courageous, he simply refuses to accept them, rejects them, just by inquiring whether it is useful for spiritual life or not, for God realization, for self-realization, for knowing of Brahman. If that is useful, then he might consider it. Otherwise, it does not make any sense for him to accept them. He simply says, no, thank you. Now that is the courage. That is the soul, that the slightest amount of weakness is not existing in this heart of Naren. He is the, as we are talking today, he is the model of, or he is the sign of, or manifestation of, embodiment of that which we call courage or fearlessness, the opposite to which is weakness. So no amount of weakness is there in his heart, and he simply is not succumbing to this kind of allurement. When Sri Ramakrishna says that you have to take the responsibility and do the mother's work, and you be the leader of the pack, in this world we find how much infight and open fight are going on just to become a leader of something, to be recognized as a leader. And there Sri Ramakrishna offering him, be the leader. You be the carrier of the authority. Mother's work you are doing. He says that no, I am not interested. Though Sri Ramakrishna compelled him to accept that responsibility later, but he was not interested in anything, any authority or power or anything. And Naren had the audacity to test Sri Ramakrishna even at his last moments. He had this audacity to raise this question in his own heart. He did not articulate it, but it was raised in his mind, it crossed his mind, that if he could tell, even in this situation when he is on the point of leaving his body, that he is God incarnate, then I can accept him. Think of the courage. Swamiji had shown this nature, this very special aspect of his character throughout his life. This courageous nature. Testing Sri Ramakrishna continued. It did not end up there. Even after Mahasamadhi of Sri Ramakrishna, testing continued at many different point of time, many different places. Narendranath was trying to find out if Sri Ramakrishna is still there, if he is still watching me, helping me, guiding me. And he was trying to see the truth about it. So, we find in the life story of Naren that how many times, this is only one side of it, that he did not accept or did not surrender to Sri Ramakrishna meekly. This is only one aspect of it, but in many, many different ways, the life of Swami Vivekananda is shining with many, many different incidents of his inner courage and fearlessness, his boldness. For example, sometimes they are described as funny incidents, but for us it is not funny. When he was here in America and in Midwest, somewhere in a small town during his lecture tour, he was invited by a bunch of young men. They were university-going people, but they had taken to the ranch life and they had become cowboys, and they wanted to test this Swami. So they invited him to give a talk to them, and Swamiji accepted it. And they brought Swamiji to the middle of this small town, and at a crossroad, they just put one wooden tub upside down and requested Swamiji to stand up on that and just give a lecture to the crowd. So Swamiji agreed, and he started giving lecture, not knowing what next was coming. And these young men, they were actually there to test the truth of what this Swami was talking about. They had heard that this yogi speaks of people who have realized the truth. They remain undaunted, unshaken in any situation. They remain equal and calm. So they wanted to test and get the proof of this yogi. And within very short time of his starting this lecture, all of a sudden there were loud bangs of gunfire going on, and he found that shots were whizzing past his ears. And still he remained completely unshaken, as if nothing had happened. He continued in delivering his lecture. He was completely immersed in those ideas of his lecture. And after the lecture was over, of course, those young men, they were very, very appreciative of this Swami. They applauded this Swami. So these kind of many incidents, and some of those incidents were like facing very life-threatening situations. There also, Swamiji has shown during his times of wandering monks all over India, or coming to the West, or even after returning back, many different incidents we see the courage of Swamiji. But this courage is not about just how a person lives his life. As I said that in the very beginning, that the show of courage really shines in a situation when a person talks truth to the power, to the authority. there the courage is really reflected, or it becomes demonstrated, it becomes visible. How Swamiji spoke to the power, the authority, during his time, that would tell volumes about his courage, the level of his courage. To understand that what was the socio-political background of Swamiji, we have to remember that Swamiji was born, lived, and had his Mahasamadhi during British Empire. From 1600 to 1858, it was the East India Company that was ruling over most part of India, and from 1858 till 1947, it was the British Empire, starting from Queen Victoria onwards, that ruled over Indian subcontinent, and the rule was ruthless. Any voice of dissension or criticism would be squashed very fast and mercilessly. That was the rule. And this British colony, they had another side of it. It was a Christian mission and evangelical activity in Indian subcontinent. That was an integral part of the empire. And therefore, for those subjects of that colony, both the cross and the sword, they were the symbol of the same empire, the power. We have to understand the Swamiji's context when we read what Swamiji said, what Swamiji wrote, in the midst of which audience, then we have to remember that this was the socio-political context with the background of which only Swamiji was speaking. When we look back 150 years back, those history days, they might make a romanticized remembrance of the history. We really don't experience that situation anymore now. But for Swamiji, it was a life experience. It was the real-time situation. He came from that background. For all people living there, it was like that. So when he speaks with that background to the audience in whether it was the Parliament of Religion in Chicago or afterwards during his 4-year stay in the West, whatever he spoke, and specifically when he was speaking very harsh truth openly against the church, we have to understand it that he was speaking with a different level of courage, because for more ordinary Indian population it was just not possible those days. It was not just like talking against another church or a religion about their vices or their ill practices. It was in fact talking against the monarch or the empire. It would be reverberated there in that same tone. And what Swamiji was talking about, and to what kind of an audience. For example, in one case we find that in that Parliament of Religions, about 6,000 to 7,000 people were facing him, and he was among those just couple of Indians. And there Swamiji, who had been listening to or has been told about many different social ills and evils of the religion of Hinduism. They were not called social evils, they were called the evils of Hinduism. And then Swamiji stood up to speak, and he asked and challenged the entire audience that please raise your hands, those of you who have studied this Hindu scripture to some extent and have understood Hinduism to some authority. Please raise your hands. Only 2 or 3 hands were raised, though it was supposedly a congregation of theologians or from many different parts of the world and who have come to represent many different religions. After seeing that, we find that Swamiji, glancing benignly over that assembly, he then said with a voice, every accent of which must have smitten the audience as a rebuke, just these simple few words, then that, and yet you dare to judge us? Like that, he said. Now, this is something, it is a show of his fearlessness, facing a completely different kind of an audience and a different setup in which he was talking to a different people. When he was going to present his paper on Hinduism there, and Dr. Noble, he introduced him, and there was a great applause from the audience. And Swamiji, before reading his paper, he said something very, very strong worded about the Christianity, about the Western aggression of the rest of the world. He said, I'm reading from there, we who had come from the East have sat here day after day and have been told in a patronizing way that we ought to accept Christianity because Christian nations are the most prosperous. We look about us and we see England, the most prosperous Christian nation in the world, with her foot upon the neck of 250 million Asiatics. We look back into history and see that the prosperity of Christian Europeans began with Spain. Spain's prosperity began with the invasion of Mexico. Christianity wins its prosperity by cutting the throats of its fellow men. At such a price, the Hindu will not have prosperity. And after some time, he again says like this. He continues, and may I ask you, Europeans, what country you have ever raised to better conditions? Wherever you have found weaker races, you have exterminated them by the roots, as it were. You have settled on their lands, and they are gone forever. What is the history of your America, your Australia, and New Zealand, your Pacific Islands, and South Africa? Where are the aboriginal races there today? They have all been exterminated. You have killed them outright as if they were wild beasts. It is only where you have not the power to do so, and there only, that other nations are still alive. Now, these kind of words, Swamiji said, and we have to remember the whole context that after he said so, there was great applause from the crowd. After he said these words, and these words are very strong worded against the Western colonial power and their desire to expand their empire everywhere, and how they have been mercilessly destroying all different ethnic groups and civilization and what they are doing, these strong worded, and there was great applause from the audience. And then Swamiji presented his paper on Hinduism, because Swamiji, as we find that people have started finding in Swamiji that Swamiji had greatest of his love for Christ on the other hand. To another place in another set up to a question from one lady in the audience. He has said that, Madam, had I been born during the time of Christ in Palestine, I would have washed his feet, not with my tears of eyes, but the blood of my heart. This kind of highest reverence he had paid to Christ. These words are coming from the mouth of one who during his mendicant monastic days in India 4 years was carrying with him only 2 books. One was Bhagavad Gita, another was Imitation of Christ, which he loved so much that later on he translated that book in his own way, the first 6 chapters. So Swamiji was so very clear in his love for Christ on one hand and his criticism for whatever he considered as the other side, the dark side of the missionary zeal of Christianity. He was very ruthless in speaking. And this is where we find the spirit, the courage of Swamiji, the fearlessness that was showing. Because the courage will not be a courage unless it is speaking the truth to the power, to the authority. And here is Swamiji who is showing that how courageous he was. Among his many friends that he made in the Parliament of Religion was that famous atheist thinker, writer, speaker Ingersoll, who warned Swamiji that Swamiji, your this outspoken ways of expressing your criticism against the church, against the society, Western society, etc., they are very dangerous. So be careful. But it was hard for Swamiji. He told that, Swamiji, had you come 50 years back, you would have been hanged. You would have been burnt alive, or you would have been stoned out of the village. But Swamiji was nevertheless that bold and fearless and courageous that it was hard for anybody to stop him. And this courage he showed when he returned back to his own motherland. This courage, the show of courage or display of courage in the form of speaking the truth to the authority or the power. And in India, it was against all the social evils that he spoke out with unambiguous language. When he was talking to the social leaders, the Brahmins those days, we have to remember it is more than 100 years back India we are talking about. And Swamiji is telling them with plain language, those priest class, that what you talk about religion is nothing. It is a rubbish. He says that only I am pure and the whole world is impure. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. The whole world is impure and I alone am pure. Is it all that Brahmagyana you mean? Bravo, great God. Nowadays, Brahman is neither in the recesses of the heart, nor in the highest heaven, nor in all beings. Now he is only in the cooking pot. And this he has said again and again. Like we are Orthodox Hindus, but we choose entirely to identify ourselves with don't touchism. That is not Hinduism. It is in none of our books. It is an Orthodox superstition which has interfered with national efficiency all along in line. Don't touchism is a form of mental disease, he said. And many other different areas of social evils that were persisting those days, Swamiji pointed out them with very, very scathing and very strong worded his speeches and his writings. They were not received very well there in India. At least in Bengal area we find that Swamiji was not welcome in many different places. Swamiji was not welcome in Dakshineshwar Kali temple. They restricted him from entering there. Swamiji was not received properly by the Brahmin elite society of Bengal, at least we find. So, but Swamiji did not care for that. Swamiji was always there to speak the truth and the whole truth. This is our Swamiji, who always was preaching the message of strength, message of fearlessness, and message of courage. His words are like this, and here is the test of truth. Anything that makes you weak physically, intellectually, and spiritually, reject as poison. There is no life in it. It cannot be true. Truth is strengthening. Truth is purity. Truth is all knowledge. Truth must be strengthening, must be enlightening, must be invigorating. In another place he says, strength is what the Upanishads speak to me from every page. This is the one great thing to remember. It has been the one great lesson I have been taught in my life. Strength, it says, strength, O man, be not weak. So he, as a prophet, when he will be speaking these words or even writing, he will be like a possessed person. So these words of strength, the words of courage, the words of fearlessness that were spontaneously and continuously coming out from Swamiji, that is a very, very powerful side of Swamiji, very wonderful side at the same time. So Swamiji wanted his followers, yes, there are millions and millions of followers are there of Swamiji, but I wonder if Swamiji would accept them as his follower, because Swamiji had very few actually initiated disciples, very limited number of actually initiated monastic disciples. His other brother disciples had many more. Because Swamiji wanted that his disciples should also be equally courageous and fearless. He said that, can you climb up this palm tree and at the order of your guru can just leave the hold of the grip of your hands and fall from there? If I ask you, if you can do that, then you can become my disciple. Or if I ask you to jump into the river Ganges and go and catch the crocodile, if I say so without a second thought, if you can do that, you can be my disciple. That kind of conditions he put, and that's why we find those disciples of Swamiji who was that kind of a fearless in their life, like Swami Sadananda, who jumped into the action and even not caring for his life served the plague-stricken, the poor slum dwellers of Calcutta. The Swamiji loved him very much. He said, yes, he is my disciple, he is my follower. Or Swami Ishtananda, when 3 of the monks, they were sent on the other side of river Ganges to buy a cow, a milking cow was required. And Swamiji, while they were going, Swamiji told Ishtananda that remember to strongly keep holding the rope that ties the neck of that cow and not let it go. Otherwise the cow will run away. And while they were crossing the river by boat, in the middle of the river, and the river was full, it became so turbulent, and cow was so afraid of the situation, all of a sudden it jumped from the boat and fell into the river. Everyone screamed out except Ishtananda, who also jumped, holding on to that rope in his hand, not letting it go, because his guru has asked him that remember to hold on to the rope and don't let the rope go, otherwise the cow will run away. So he held that rope and continued holding it, and gradually, even risking his own life, eventually reached the Belur monastery after hours and hours of very interesting situation. And then when they returned back, then Swamiji, after rebuking him, he said that yes, he is my real follower. He is the disciple. So this is the Swamiji that, as I began my talk, that the Swamiji is loved by many for many different reasons. Swamiji was a great spiritual teacher. Swamiji was a great reformer of the society. Swamiji brought the new message to the West as well as to the East. Swamiji reformed the entire monastic order of the age-old Hinduism there back in India. The political revivalist movement, everything, they began with the message of Swamiji that invigorated the whole land. But throughout all of his activities, what we see there, that he was the face of courage. And that is the reason that we choose Swamiji as our hero. Thank you very much.
We are very grateful to Swami Ishtananda, who gave a very wonderful talk on Swamiji's courage.